Buddhist Sangha and therapeutic communities are kind of two foundational ideas of this program. And I wanted to cover both of them a little bit in relationship to community lab course. So we'll cover what is Sangha. I chose Pema Chodron's teaching on Sangha. It's always a choice of which teacher to choose. I try to do a variety of teachers, a variety of perspectives. We'll talk a little bit about therapeutic communities and the influences of those ideas on Ed Podville and founding the program, and its parallels with Western psychology, and then some similarities and differences. So we're not going to talk about the topics of community psychology, organizational psychology, social psychology, liberation psychology, or group dynamics from those particular lenses. They may get slipped into the talk at points. So what does Pema Chodron say? What is a Sangha? It's a community of practitioners on a path of awakening and growth. There's an emphasis on interdependence, mutual support, effort, and vulnerability. And it's transformative to both the individual and the collective. So the core features of Sangha from Pema's point of view is there's shared ethical commitments. So these would include establishing a sense of belonging and inclusivity for others, constantly using right speech and right action. So in right speech, you're not attacking others and you're not putting others down, you're not mocking them. Right action could be sharing your experience, your perspective, potentially being quiet, potentially sitting upright and demonstrating that you're listening to others. A Sangha must have compassion and kindness. To be part of a Sangha, it takes a lot of discipline to practice, to listen to the teachings, to work to be supportive to the growth of yourself and everyone in the Sangha. You must respect others and you must respect the community. You can't do anything that would disturb the community. I think of screaming and yelling, putting others down, physical violence, drug use, secrets, sexual acting out, physical acting out. So you must respect the community and what will help the community grow and not send it into a state of crisis. While we'll have to work through things, there's a way to bring up topics and differences and hopes and fears in a respectful way that others can hear and not create fear and chaos. So this is a field of practice, right? It's not just the individuals. We're working with the entire Sangha when we're part of the Sangha, and we're doing our part to help the Sangha grow, for us to grow, and to help others grow. I love this from Pema. Sangha is the most imperfect of the three jewels, the Buddha, the teaching, and then the Sangha. Sangha is a place where human neuroses surface. I know being at Naropa for a very long time, I've had a whole variety of past memory, past enactments of my family, of community, all kinds of fantasy worries about what other people thought about me, kind of lost in my own shadow at points. And for Pema really emphasizes it's important to realize Sanghas are imperfect. They're the training ground for growth. Without imperfection, there would be no growth. And when you're talking about a Sangha or community, everyone has their own subjective goals and wishes, the norms they would like, the actions they would like, the topics they would like to discuss. So much like dukkha, everyone in a Sangha has some level of suffering, existential angst, dissatisfaction, lack. I wish there was something more or different. So some of Pema's guidelines for being part of a Sangha is deep listening beyond automatic thinking. So you're listening to someone, inevitably we create categories and meanings for that person. Can we get beyond our lazy go-to and try to listen more deeply and exchange and get into that person's mind and heart in some way? right? The Sangha is the lifeline and is the growth vehicle on the spiritual path. It counteracts fantasy of just thinking in isolation. When we're by ourselves, we can make anything up. But when we're with others, we get a dose of other realities, and we get a chance to kind of increase our wisdom through learning from others. Again, she stresses it lessens the perfectionistic expectations of self and others and system, and it provides an opportunity to create new habits in yourself and new habits in a community. A community or person should ideally continually be moving forward. Otherwise, like a fish, it will no longer exist. It can't breathe. So although unknown where we're heading, ideally, it's not a repetition of the same. This gets covered in other lectures, but Pema highlights it's not just support, but reflection. Being with others builds humility as we begin to see that we don't understand everything or understand things in a limited way. And this highlights our own subjectivity. All the kleshas can come, all the three poisons. We can cling to how we want to have it or how it just was. We can be aggressive and try to force a cohort to be this way or that way or class to be this way. We can disassociate. We can have aversion. We can have fear, and we can have fantasy narratives from our own past. And so by getting the mirror of the community, we get to learn these things, and we're not seeing the world accurately. It's an opportunity to be brave, to share your vulnerability. It's an opportunity to constantly practice compassion and respect. That's not part of our regular culture. So when we're feeling agitated, can we try to bring compassion? Can we meet others with empathy? Can we try to understand where they're coming from? Can we let them know how we're understanding where they're coming from? It's a great opportunity to learn for others. And it's also an opportunity to put the Dharma in practice and to try to positively contribute to a Sangha or a class or a cohort. So much of more recent Buddhist thinking has really focused on this idea of embodiment. So Pema says that it's beyond theory, but it's real Dharma in action. And she really highlights going back to one's body, our sense perceptions, kind of resetting the automatic skandhas that we do, much as we see in mindfulness research, and that positivity that happens of seeing things fresh when we go back to sense perceptions, take some deep breaths. Ideally, it will deepen collective wisdom. It's not just about talking. Again, it's about checking in somatically. What are you feeling? What's my body feeling? How am I being at this moment? Am I realizing my aliveness, the luminosity, the awe of the gift of a human life? And the Sangha is not about escaping from discomfort, but really learning to remain present with it, right? We constantly are confronting impermanence. The class starts this way, it moves to that, it moves this way. And vulnerability generally moves the process forward. As we see in social psychology, if you want to learn about others, you share something about yourself, which could be a brief story, a thought, a feeling you're having, a body sensation. It could be a dream fragment, song lyric that's coming to mind. In this karmic web or road we're riding down, every little thing someone says or doesn't say influences the development of the class, of the Sangha, right? And is there a better place than a Sangha or in a group or in a training program to face uncertainty and groundlessness, right? You think you have a handle of what's going on, and then you learn something new or you see things from a new perspective, and you're shattered in some way and you start over. It's a famous Gary Snyder poem that the Dharma is like an avocado. The pit always slips through your hand, even though you have it. And Pema really highlights being in a Sangha is a chance of being with the rawness of being human, right? Not a fantasy world, but the discomfort the connections, the feelings of compassion, the feelings of disgust? And can we do this without our defenses, but be with the present moment of what's happening? So more of Pema is, we co-create growth through this humanity of the rawness of human experience. She believes over time, ideally, people's egos soften and more fragility is revealed. It's really about collaboration and moving towards, as opposed to coming in with some idealization of what things should be like or are like or could be like, but being with what is, right? And the goal here as a Sangha member is, how do you bring out the best in others? In the Sangha, this would include bringing out the best in the teacher, saying what you liked, what you don't understand, how this practice or that practice was for you. And in a training program, how can you bring out the best in other students? How can you light their curiosity, their compassion, their openness, their vulnerability? How can you do this for your instructors, right? Every instructor has unique experiences and expertise. And how can you help them share the wisdom they've gained through many, many years of clinical practice, being in community, group leadership, meditation practice, spiritual practice, to kind of expand what can happen for you and happen for the group. And I also really want to stress that it's an opportunity to bring out the best in the administrators, whether it be in Naropa as a whole or in the program or CSBs, right? How can you be with them in a way that will let their brilliance shine through and shine onto you and shine onto the group? So it has some parallels to this course and to training programs, right? The classroom and cohort can be seen as a Sangha and is often used in this program through that lens of Sangha. So this idea of Sangha has similarities in Western psychological thought, right? Some things that get highlighted, particularly in the research, is the importance of community and belonging to one's happiness, one's growth, and one's mental wellness, right? Sanghas can have similar dynamics to cohorts and can be found in the theory and research of community, organizational, social, and group dynamic scholarship. It's not like it's outside of this culture or outside of dynamics, right? Ideally, both a Sangha has shared ethics and norms that promote functioning. And at Naropa, we have the student handbook of what is expected behavior, honesty, effort, and we have the same for faculty, right? The idea is it's mutual influence and mutual transformation. So that doesn't mean you're putting your wisdom onto others to transform them in the way that you would like them to be or think that's best for them. It also speaks to an openness of continuing to learn and grow. And that as a group meets or as a cohort meets, there's a possibility that it gains some sustainability and some resilience and even courage to try new things, to grow even closer, to even improve the learning environment, improving everyone's skills as you train to be counselors. So therapeutic community was a topic that was of great interest to Ed Podville. And early in my career, I got to work with Ed Podville at Friendship House during the period when they were deinstitutionalizing people with severe and chronic mental illness. He set up a variety of programs with others. One was Friendship House, where people could come together who had been institutionalized and live together, be affected by a more sane environment, by their relationships, by the staff, by everyday life, by nature, by work. And this was the curative factor more than a medication, more than just psychotherapy. So there's many examples of therapeutic communities taking root, particularly after World War II. Maybe the most famous is the Northfield Clinic in North England, where there were so many orphans and so many traumatized people and so many widowed people and so many people in spiritual crisis following World War II. There was not enough therapists to treat this massive generation of individuals who were traumatized and disillusioned and hopeless. So they would build these therapeutic communities where they would try, how can we be together with fewer staff, but lots of participants in a way that could create healing and growth in some way. So you can find these ideas of Sangha or therapeutic communities and groups throughout your life. You can, like recovery groups is considered like a Sangha. I'm thinking of Dharma recovery. Most spiritual communities have some sense of shared ethics, shared values, shared practices. And then I'm thinking just of all the groups you are part of in your life, right? Potentially these are groups designed for everyone's growth. I think of the various social groups I'm involved in around a variety of interests and identities, and that these come together for mutual support and growth. So this cohort model is common in many, many training programs, right? We do it specifically here, the intensity of the cohort, which has the mirror and the intensity for you to reflect deeply and for you to really practice deeply on becoming more kind, more effective, more compassionate, to expand your understanding of others, to expand your understanding of self. But as you move through the field, in your practicum and in your internship, there may be cohorts that come together and take classes and have process groups together. When you join mental health organizations, there'll be cohorts of child therapists and cohorts of family therapists and cohorts of adult therapists and people who specialize in different symptomologies. And I think, our chosen groups and our social groups in some way are a Sangha or a therapeutic community, even if we don't think of it as such. So what are the distinctions? What are differences? So in Western model, therapeutic communities is really about increasing functionality, potentially productivity, personal growth, chances to be altruistic to others, a chance for service. Now in Sangha, the goal is kind of spiritual liberation for all beings, which is a very idealized situation, but kind of working on a much grander outcome and goal than, say, Western models, which is more towards healing. But in both models, the group is the essential ingredient in change. So more similarities is there's shared purpose and commitment. Ideally, you're all committed to being the best counselors you can be, to helping others be the best counselor. Hopefully there's mutual support and then mutual accountability for that you bring to the group in terms of showing up, being present, being kind, having done the work, constructively helping the conversation move forward, looking at helping the group find other perspectives. They both work as kind of relational mirrors. You get to see your habits of your relational style and your communication style and potentially get feedback on this. They both must have an ethical and normative container. There can't just be chaos where people do whatever they want, wherever they want, and distract the learning of everyone for one person, either seeking attention or having a crisis. So you can explore what is the best normative container. So the program has expected behaviors and this class will have expected behaviors. And can you go up to those and explore those, but not cross those? I think of many examples where, say, I've lived this class and someone got up and ran around the group and screamed and scared everyone and stopped all conversation. So that was someone who was not being within the norms of the expected behavior, was eventually removed from the program. I think of being at retreats when people expose themselves or try to act out sexually or brought drugs in or promoted other people to do drugs in some way, or was just completely dominating all the discussion time or dominating their views, how they knew more than the teacher in some way. And that does not create a functional group or a functional Sangha or a functional cohort or a functional classroom. And it's important to remember that membership is voluntary. You can join a Sangha. If it's not right for you, you can leave. You can join another Sangha. I think most of us might have many Sanghas and communities that we're part of. I would recommend that actually. And same thing with a training program. You've chosen to be a counselor. I know for myself, as I move through the field, my initial fantasies of what that would be like is very different than what it is in actual practice. And you can decide if this is the right training where you get really in-depth training about a very enduring tradition that explores the mind and relationship and community and ethical behavior. Or perhaps you want to study Jungian psychology, or perhaps you want to specialize in a family program where that's the specialty is contemplative psychotherapy. But you do get a taste of other things here. So remember, you can leave any Sangha, any community. Hopefully anytime there are times when there is coercion or threats or oppressive dynamics that can prevent that. If something like that's happening in here, let me know and I'll do my best to explore that, examine that, and support you in some way. But times can get tough, and that doesn't mean to run out of tough times. As Pema says, tolerating the imperfections of self, others, communities, learning to tolerate distress, right? Learning to work with complexity. So what's the differences, right? So Sangha, it's about liberation and growth for the Sangha and for everyone. In a therapeutic community and a counseling thing, it's about healing. It might be about learning new skills. And then in a training program, it might be about the goal would be learning to be the best counselor you can. So you might be part of a Sangha forever. Psychotherapy, given the tradition, might have different time-limited amounts. It seems like a lot of insurance companies and clinics are offering do the best you can in 10 to 12 sessions. In higher education, there's a limit of you learn the most you can in a time-limited amount. You develop your counselor skills to the best of your ability in that time-limited amount, and then you launching. But in the field, much like spiritual growth, it's constant learning and growth. I'm constantly learning and improving my competencies of being a counselor and my knowledge base, my communication style, my relational skills, my intervention options in some way. That's a wonderful thing about this field is that it's never ending. And I think it reflects the Buddhist path in that way. So in the Sangha, we awaken together. Therapeutic community may be how do we recover together. A training cohort might be how do we learn and grow together. But the similarities is it's a collective responsibility and a collective transformation. In this class, there'll be a pull to look at individuals or yourself, but the task at hand is to come back to what's happening in this class, in this moment, in this training program, right? It's not about individual analysis. It's about expanding into much more subtle group dynamics and much of the contemplative literature, the impact of the environment is seen as very, very important on creating sanity in some way. So what is the environment that's happening? Is it moving towards growth? Is it moving towards helping you develop counselor skills in some way. I always put a question in. You could talk about how this is similar and different than Sangha in some way. And there's just kind of some concluding thoughts that you can review. So I hope this is helpful. I think there's such opportunities in community lab to practice so many of the core competencies of being a counselor, distrust tolerance, recognizing one's subjectivity, exchanging with others, recognizing others' experience with compassion, practicing communication skills as a great opportunity to learn in your knowledge base, not just from the therapeutic community model, the Buddhist Sangha model, but from social psychology and organizational psychology and liberation psychology and group dynamics. So I hope it's a very rare opportunity. It's very rare that you're in a group that explores its unfolding process, its norms, its roles. And I hope you take advantage of it and take advantage of the guidance the instructors can lend you. Bye.